Welcome to the Real Business Women of Charlotte. I am Dr. Christine Kozachuk, and today I have my beautiful co-host, Barbara Lash, LaShawna Milner, and Blanca Cobb, the body language expert. Welcome to the Real Business Women of Charlotte, Blanca.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And my first question that we have for you today is this, is being a body language expert, how do people receive you as looking at them and thinking that you're reading them?
It happens all the time. So as soon as somebody hears body language expert, they do what I call a body lockdown. You know, what am I thinking? Okay, I'm blinking too much. I'm moving this way. I'm like, no, just relax. Just relax. It's not that scary. But I think there's a lot of intrigue and mystique about body language, and that sets people maybe a little on edge.
Now, my next question is this, is how did you get into body language, being a body language expert, the body shark?
That's a really good question. And so it was several years ago, a long time ago, I was looking on MSN, which is my homepage, and there was a clip of Al Roker. He was interviewing a body language expert about her book. And I said, whoa, I didn't realize that everyday people could figure out somebody's body language. I thought it was, for like the FBI or the CIA, right? Not just for everyday people. And so I started studying at the Body Language Institute, and that's how it all started for me.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, where's it located?
It's in Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Wow. Okay.
So you've not just taken it to the everyday person. I know that you go into corporate environments as well.
That's a huge hat to back on. That was awesome, actually.
You're seen on many television shows. So you talked about that initial lock, right? How do you get past that to help other people train in this area to maybe let their body speak differently so that their messages match their words?
Well, it's all about relaxation. So when you meet somebody, everyone's always sizing somebody up. You're sizing me up, I'm sizing you up. You go to the grocery store, you're sizing the next person up. That's just life. We're trying to make meaning of people. We're trying to understand people. We want to see if somebody has good intentions, right? Because they have bad intentions, you want to stay away from them. So it starts with intent. Like, what is your intent in learning about people? How is it going to help you, and how are you going to help them? Because life is about relationships.
That's right.
Whether in personal life or the business world, it's about relationships. So how do you develop rapport, and how are you making somebody feel comfortable, and how are you developing trust? And that's where body language really comes in. And a lot of times people have these unspoken objections or concerns, but they don't want to tell you. So imagine what it's like when you can see somebody. Let me give you an example. They look down and they turn their body slightly away from you. And then you're like, wow, so that's a clue to you that perhaps the conversation or the question is a little bit sensitive. And imagine flipping that script where the person feels understood. And then they're like, oh, wow. And it's subconscious that they do that they feel relaxed, and they'll turn back to you and start talking. Why? Because you get them. You understand them. And you're not calling anyone out in the process.
I can see, like, working in maybe with some managers to understand their employees, how that could really be influential and change really how the dynamics of the workplace.
And that's good. I'm glad you brought that up, because in the workplace, and speaking, a lot of women are going back into the workplace or starting their own business and interviewing people or being interviewed. What would you say would be some good maybe postures or body language to have during interviews to really kind of build a relationship, because trust is very important too in the workplace. So to start building that trust and that relationship, trying to get this job or trying to get this opportunity or contract, how can someone do that through posture or body language?
When you're talking to somebody, you want to make sure that you're facing them. Okay, so you and I are facing kind of catty corner, which is great, because a lot of times if you're face to face like this, it can be perceived as confrontational, because you're just off just a little bit, and you want to make sure that you're looking at somebody. And when you're talking, or actually when you're listening, this is where you might tilt your head just a little bit and you'll nod, because that's encouraging. I'm listening to what you're saying, please continue. Sometimes it can mean agreement, and you want to make sure that you're relaxed. So that means that shoulders aren't tensed up, right? Or your fingers. People get so many questions like, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
lay them. You want the natural curvature of your fingers to show. You don't want this, you don't want that. And just lay them down. And then talk. And I always tell people to talk with their hands because it helps. For me, it helps accentuate what you're going to say.
Okay.
And you have to be careful with that because when people first start using hand gestures, they might get really big.
I do too.
And yeah. So you have to consider
All
your
over the place, yeah.
audience. If you're
Yeah.
if you're on stage and you're talking to a group, 100 or more people, then you would use bigger gestures than when you're talking to a smaller group.
That's very great
Yeah.
information.
Yes.
Because it's like, you're sitting here and you're thinking that she's actually going to read you.
I want her to read us. I totally want to hear what you have to say.
I want to know what I'm doing wrong or doing right.
Yeah,
That-
exactly.
But my next question is, the real businesswomen of Charlotte, I had a vision about this about 2 years ago. And why I came about this is because we as women forget to have that real talk of how to balance our business, how to balance our families' lives, and how to do our self-care of ourselves. So we had talked earlier about your children. How do you balance your life with your business and giving your children also the attention that they're needing as a mom, as a single mom?
That is a great question, and it's a balancing act. So some days aren't going to look the same. So it depends on what we have going on. So for example, maybe one of my kids has a lot going on with sports that day. So that would probably take precedence, right? And then I would have to do my own time around that schedule. And that's just kind of like how I do it. And sometimes they know I got a project or I've got something coming up, so I have to prepare. So I'm in the house, but I just might not be
Completely accessible.
Thank you. Completely accessible. Absolutely.
You've just gone through that yesterday. I read your mind.
Yeah, you did. Absolutely.
Yes, I totally understand that. By raising my 3 kids, I was able to stay home and work from home, so I totally get, that question, the answer to that question.
And a lot of moms feel guilty, but the way I see it, you're not an event planner. You're not there to coordinate and structure their day. As they get older, I'm not talking about the little babies who need that constant supervision and attention, but I have high schoolers.
Yeah.
So you don't have to plan their day. And sometimes it's okay for kids to get bored because that's life. It's what are they going to do with the time that they have? So as long as you have enough for them to do, they can figure it out themselves. Because you're not always going to be there as a mom to guide them and give them the answers. But I think at home, when you set the precedents or you set the stage for them, then they can start picking and choosing what they want to create their own path.
You talk about setting the precedent. I think of also being a businesswoman, being an entrepreneur, and the success that you have. Do you think that plays a big role in how your kids see you? Because you're really knocking it out of the park.
Yes. I think I'm a little hesitant because me being on TV doesn't matter to them. They've seen it so much. If it's a new show, new national show, then they're like, okay, but otherwise they're like, whatever. Regardless of what I did, right? I could be a plumber, I could be a doctor. They would be like, okay, you do this every day. There's nothing new about it. But what really works for my children is that they see that I put myself out there. And then what it takes to continue to strive to reach that goal. And sometimes not everything is a success. Sometimes there's setbacks. And for them to see, okay, mom is still going to be persistent.
Yes.
Can hurt a little bit or can sting, whatever the situation is, but you just keep moving towards that goal. And I really want for my kids to see and appreciate a strong woman.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And speaking,
Legacy. Sorry.
yeah, I know, I love that's your thing. Yeah, and I heard you say the setbacks. I mean, it is good for them to see that. And speaking of that, anything you want to share with us about any setbacks and turning points to bring you back to whom you are today and what you're doing today?
That's a question that would have to think just a little bit. But I guess for me is I've had a lot of transition in my life.
Okay.
And I'm recently divorced.
Me too.
And I stayed home with my children for many years. And then if I had to go back and do it again, and it's something that I tell my daughter, is I would have started working sooner. You get married, you think you're going to get married for life. Or you enter a partnership, you think it's going to be for life. But sometimes it doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be a divorce. There it could be death or disability or unemployment. So something could happen, but you would have more confidence and to be able to move forward, to pivot around those obstacles a little easier.
Yes, yes.
But what's nice about it, because I always try to find the silver lining in situations, is how do you get yourself up? How do you push yourself out that door, figuratively and literally?
And so how did you? I mean, any tips on that?
You just have to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I wish I could say I just woke up one day and was like,
Yeah.
no. I mean,
Yeah.
there are just some days that were really hard. But I kept thinking, okay, my kids. For me, it's the driving force of my children.
So why? Yes.
Yeah, oh my God,
so
it's my
why?
children.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and that for me, that was the same for me. And I tell people that I thank my kids because I feel like I wouldn't be that successful woman that I am today because of them. Because when I woke up every morning, they were my why. And I know most moms are exactly like that.
Yes.
Yeah, they are your why. So my next question to you would be, what was it that your biggest career or your biggest business failure, what was the biggest teaching in that?
For me, I'm not sure. I guess it would be a failure. It's just, I don't know how I would word it, but just not starting soon enough. I was on one life path, and it didn't work out. So I had to pivot and go down a different path. And that's okay because life is going to throw all kinds of things at you.
Absolutely.
But hindsight and looking back, I would have started sooner.
I always wonder when we go back and we think over our lives, and the hindsight is 20/20, as they say. But I also think, kind of to your point, Christine, that without certain things happening in our lives, we may not have made the decisions. We may not have strived as much. I mean, obviously I'm no expert, but I can clearly see that you are driven, and I think partly because of that late pivot. And I wonder, for myself, I'm an entrepreneur my second time over now, and I wonder if I had not, I won't say failed, if I had not succeeded as much as I wanted to the first time and felt that pull to go back in the TV, if I would have, just had a different perspective, but the second time around, officially retiring from my day job, it's like, I feel so driven. And I think if I didn't have that less than successful profile before, I wouldn't be this driven. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it makes you stronger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we have to have
those
those setbacks
Yes,
that you say.
absolutely.
Because if we have to have those setbacks in order to learn,
to move forward. Absolutely.
I mean, those setbacks, I always say those failures are the best thing that ever happened to me because I learned
Lessons,
from
yeah.
those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, can
yeah,
we get to it
yeah.
now? Can you read us? Can you read us?
Okay, sure. I think overall, because you're on television, you want to present a very professional side. So in terms of your hands, I notice how the hands for all three of you, right? So this is a very polite, a professional way of holding and positioning your hands. It's a little formal. And then also how you have your legs, right? You can keep them long and elongated and maybe crossed at the ankle. That's very feminine.
And I noticed yours is a little different, though.
Yeah,
I like this.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you
just
saw
keep
us
mine
before
together.
we came out here too. So what were those versions?
That was just relaxed. It's like, here I am. I'm having fun. I'm getting to know you, Blanca, right? Because it's like, get to know me. And just being yourselves. And I think that's critical in any type of relationship, because even in business relationships, they want to know the real you. They want to know the real me. Blanca, what makes you tick?
Yes.
How is it that why is it that your children are so important to you, besides because they're mine? What lessons do you want to impart on your kids?
Yes.
What have you learned from your failures? Where do you want to go in life? I mean, people want to get to know the real you. So the more relaxed that you are, now this doesn't mean you have to tell everybody every single detail of your life.
Social media.
Right, social media. You can have some privacy, but in what you're willing to share and what you're willing to tell, people want to make sure it's authentic
Absolutely.
and it's coming from a good place.
Exactly. And knowing that too, just you don't know from just being open how you can impact someone else, so that's very important also. So I do want to, if I mention the word, we're going to transition for a little bit to find out a little bit more about you other than the body shark. If I say childhood to you, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Sad.
Just the word childhood.
Sad.
And why?
I was abused when I was a little girl.
Wow.
I always had my mother's love. If it wasn't for my mother's love, I would have never have made it. But yeah, it was sad. There were a lot of sad times. Now, sure, not every single day was sad.
Yes, yes.
But there was a lot of sadness and heaviness.
Yeah. And mother love.
Oh my gosh,
stayed-
yes.
Yes. Pushed you through.
Oh yes.
Yes.
In my family, my culture, it's there are hugs and kisses and they're constant I love yous. I mean, you know. So not only do you see it because you're being taken care of, but you know because you hear it. And it's authentic.
Yes.
And that's how I am with my own children.
I was going to say, how has that shaped your relationship with your own kids? That loving. Are you always? Do they really get like upset with you? Do you still give them hugs as teenagers, or?
If they allow it. Okay. But I'd like to, and I will try, and sometimes they don't, and that's okay. You know, it's all about autonomy, and they're growing up. But I will tell you, the running joke in our family is, Mom, can you go one day without saying that you love me? No. And why would I? Why would I?
Yes. Say it
Because it's
now.
constant.
Yes.
It's more than once a day. It's just important to me
Yes. Yes.
that they know. So it's not only that they're hearing it, I also show it in a lot of different ways
Yeah.
that I love them.
And they'll do that with their kids too. And their kids will say the same thing. Why do you say this every day?
They'll understand it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have another fun fact for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it when Blanca is at home on a Friday night or a Saturday night and the kids are not there? What do you do for you
I watch a movie.
and your favorite food and why?
I watch movies. I love movies. It's an escape for your 1.5, 2 hours. It puts you in a different mentality, a different mind space. It's almost you can live vicariously through characters. And I really like that. And sometimes there's some learning lessons depending on the movie, right? My favorite food, I love Italian food. So I can't really say I have a particular one. It's just the cuisine is just really good.
So sitting in front of that movie, popcorn, snacks, all that stuff?
Sometimes. It depends on what mood I'm in. It really depends on what I'm in.
Exactly.
Right now I'm trying not to eat as much chocolate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But if I were splurging, I would have M&Ms and popcorn. Combined.
Oh, yeah.
Plain or peanut?
Both.
Combination. I like that.
Yeah. I just started eating that. It is so awesome. It really is.
And a glass of milk. I love milk.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, if you had to choose between unlimited wisdom and unlimited wealth, which would you choose and why?
Wow. The easy answer would be wealth, but I think wisdom. Because with wealth, if you don't have the wisdom with your money, you're going to lose it.
That's good.
So it's that wisdom, because if you're really wicked smart, then you're going to be able to make a boatload of money.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that
good.
question.
Yeah.
So we're going to have one more fun fact for you. Okay. So where is your favorite place to vacation and why?
It's Disney World. And it's with my children.
Okay. And they still like.
They still
like
yeah.
Disney World.
We just went in August, a few months ago.
Okay.
Yes, I did
So
see that one.
it's fantasy and it's fun and there's a lot to do. So our favorite is Magic Kingdom
Okay.
of the four
okay,
parks.
Okay.
But we just love it. It's great. And it's a good time for us. And there's something for all of us that we like. Now sure, their tastes have changed over the years, right? In terms of now it's more rides and less with characters. But it's just a fun place for us. We enjoy it.
So
That's so good.
one last question before we close. If you're speaking to the women of the world right now, and they are challenged with things of the business, they're challenged with, education, they're challenged with childcare, they're challenged by taking care of how to take care of themselves. What message would you give them
To be successful, to handle all of that, streamline. Streamline. You can't do it all at once. And just because you can't do it all at once doesn't say anything negatively of you.
Right.
If you streamline and say, okay, these are the most important things I have to get done first, and as you're moving down the track, then you start pulling in some other things. I think it makes it easier, because the problem is when you feel overwhelmed, it's like paralysis. You do nothing.
Yeah.
When you start thinking all those items that you were talking about, I'm like, oh my God, it's like boom, boom, it just like weighs you down, right? So if you have to have some kind of plan. And even if it's one step at a time, and just realize when you go forward, you're going to move back. And there are going to be some days you're more productive than others, some days you're going to feel better than others, and it's all okay because we're human.
Absolutely.
It's part of that process.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people just don't have patience for that process.
Yeah.
They want it done today. I started today, I want it done today.
Yes. It's me. I'll slow it down, streamline.
Well, Blanca, thank you so much for joining us. We have been entertained in some respects, but mostly just the recipients of so much wisdom from Blanca Cobb, who is the body language expert, also known as the body shark.
Yeah.
Baby shark, shark, shark. Okay.
I'm not familiar with that.
You're not? Oh, we're going to talk after. My little one is 7, so.
Yeah, let's say I have high schoolers.
Oh.
That's different.
Well, we definitely need to keep in touch, because I need to understand that older they get, how to deal with that. But what you've shared with us today has really been invaluable. You know, talking about balance and really understanding that even if you're a single mom or a single dad and you're working from home, you're an entrepreneur, you're still able to do that, especially just by letting your family know when you do have time to spend with them, that it's that time that you'll concentrate on them. But then there are times also where you're accessible, but you still need that time to kind of get what you need done. I love that you talked about your legacy and how you want your children to always know that you just keep pushing toward your goal. And the idea of streamlining so that we're not taking on too much and feeling that overwhelm. And when it comes to body language, to really be relaxed. I think, to your point, that is the best way to show our authentic selves, because people buy from people they know, like, and trust, not the representative that we send when we go to interviews, like you said, oftentimes, but really the authentic selves that we can present, not only verbally, but non-verbally. So thank you so much for your time, for being here. And thank you all for joining us. This is the Real Businesswomen of Charlotte. Please like, share, and connect with us, and we will see you the next time.